Welcome into the Hot Read podcast for Wednesday, December the 20th. I'm your host, Easton Freeze, director of published content here at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. We're also brought to you by the 440 Podcast Network. You can follow me on social media at Easton Freeze. I'm joined, as always, by producer JT, who you can follow on social media at JT_Ruhnke. JT, how we doing?
I'm good. You know, the chat here, you're getting a little too predictable, it seems, because people are even in the countdown are seeing exactly what you're going to say
They're
before you say it.
reciting the intro for me. Listen, just
Yes.
seasoned veterans of the Hot Read podcast. We appreciate you, DP, being here with us. Deagle already with us, who says, sure do love having something to listen to on his drive home other than Stillman. We got you, baby. We got you. Don't worry. We got a great one for you today. It's going to be an awesome time with our longtime friend of the show, James Foster, who we'll bring in just 1 second. We're talking about everything you are concerned about regarding the Titans this week. Mike Vrabel, Tim Kelly, the offensive line. Whose fault is this? Whose fault is the deficiencies of this team? How much blame deserves to be placed where? We're going to dive into all of it, and we love your questions or comments. You can do that by heading on over to Broadway Sports Media's YouTube page. It's Broadway Sports Media on YouTube, finding this live stream, joining the comment section of that video, and that is where you can join DP and Deagle and Matt now in the comments and get your input into today's conversation. Let's go ahead and bring our guest in, JT. He is James Foster. You know him and love him if you are familiar with this show. You can follow him on social media at No Flags Films. He, of course, runs the fantastic YouTube channel AtoZ Film Room. James, Merry Christmas. Thanks for joining the show.
Merry Christmas. Thanks for having me.
We are excited today to dive into all of the things that people are angry about this week. And I'm sure it will make for some interesting conversation, but we wanted to have you on because you, as I've said many times, are my most trusted source in the Nashville media market for the study of Titans tape and understanding what exactly is going on with the X's and O's of this team. Something that a lot of fans, and myself included, I'm certainly a novice in a lot of these categories when it comes to understand what exactly we're watching out there, especially when things are going wrong and trying to understand whose fault is what. And so we're going to dive into that today. Let's start. And by the way, we're brought to you by Boomboss Craft Pizza and Tap House. We'll tell you about a little bit later in the show. But let's go ahead and dive right in. And let's start with the most recent game that we saw this team play against the Houston Texans last Sunday. A lot was made about the game that Tim Kelly called offensively, and a lot has been made about what his season as a whole has looked like. What was your opinion? And I'm not sure, I haven't even asked you if you've had a chance to dive through this most recent game tape or not, but what was your opinion?
I just watched it, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Fresh on your mind. So what was your opinion of this game in particular? And then maybe contrasted with what his season as a whole has looked like to you so far.
So I think if you remove the first down running debacle, which like we'll get into,
sure,
was pretty ridiculous. Outside of that, like I don't think it was that bad. I mean, I felt like receivers were open a lot more often than they had been really all season.
Okay.
On a consistent basis, like within the structure of the offense, not counting trick plays and stuff like that.
Right.
I thought he did a good job getting Treylon Burks involved. Could have had him for a touchdown easily on the interception that Will Levis threw. One of his worst plays of his NFL career. So yeah, I mean, I thought most of a lot of the passing game stuff that they were doing was pretty cool, but the running, the early down running was ridiculous. And like, one of my biggest pet peeves is after games, we go to the box score and then we find what was successful. We find the split that was successful and then what wasn't successful. And then we say, why didn't you do more of this?
Right.
You know, it's just kind of revisionist history, but,
yes.
And, you know, towards the end of the game, they did start to do some first down play action stuff more. It seemed like I wasn't charting it or anything, but the fact that it took them so long to get away from the first down runs was pretty insane to me. I was doing a stat deep dive while I was watching the game, and there have been 253 teams this year that have run on first down at least 14 times in a single game. 203 teams. The Titans had the second lowest success rate of any of those teams this
all
season.
year or just in that game?
Year at 12.5% for a single game. Second worst early down success rate running the ball.
Unfortunately, that's really believable if you watch the game. I mean, that's not really hard to conceive.
Yeah, and I mean, just eyeballing it, I would guess the one successful run would be that reverse to Treylon Burks, probably.
Right.
To me, do you want to just get into the first down runs?
So yeah, let's work inside out, and then we can talk about Tim Kelly's season as a whole. So yeah, I've got the numbers here. It wasn't just that they were running on first down that a lot of fans were upset with. It was that it was pounding Derrick Henry into the wall of an offensive line, a line that can't move the line of scrimmage really at all. And he's a player that I think at this point everybody can understand has become limited in his ability. And certainly when you're not giving him a couple of steps to get going downhill, it's a problem. This year, it's not like they've used him on first down runs a ridiculous amount. Our buddy Zach Lyons at Football and Other F Words put this on Twitter today. The past 3 years, for example, in 2021, 51.2% of first downs were a Derrick Henry run. Last year, it was 50.7. This year, it's just 33.9. So people ask me, aren't you upset with the rate at which they're running on first down in general? And my response to that is, I don't really hate the rate at which they're running. I hate the usage of the two backs, and I hate the way that they're choosing to run. Do you disagree with that?
So there's several different layers to that.
Right.
So it's hard to find first down run rates. I'm not exactly sure how reliable these are, but it was the first link that popped up on Google, and it has the Titans at 17th in the NFL in first down run percentage.
Right.
It says it's 33.5%, which seems low. That's why I'm kind of like distrusting of it. But there's one stat out there that says they're kind of like middle of the road in first down run percentage.
Right.
So that's the first element. The second element of it is that I think, and I've had to do this, we need to evolve our opinion of running the football versus passing the football as the landscape of the league changes. I think 4 to 5 years ago, it was objectively a bad philosophy to, have this idea of like establishing the run on early downs and that sort of thing. But with how much too high teams are playing, the most efficient offenses in the NFL are the best rushing offenses. So the idea of having an efficient running game, and especially for a team like the Titans that aren't necessarily going to have that play-by-play success rate that you want for a great offense, like they do need to stay ahead of the sticks. And first down passes, they seem more appealing because that's just the other option. But
right.
Like I just watched Jalen Duncan for an hour and a half, and like I didn't come away from that game saying, I came away from it saying they need to stop running on first down so much, but then the alternative is passing on first down. I don't feel great about that either.
Maybe they should just skip first downs. Can we just not run first down plays? Is that possible?
Yeah. Can we just like compromise and take like 2 yards maybe? I don't know.
Right. Just buy a vowel.
Yeah. So I think philosophically, like I've changed a little bit over recent years in terms of running the football versus passing the football. There's the Derrick Henry element of it. I think he's definitely lost a step. But I do think that that's a separate conversation from what I've seen the last 2 weeks, really.
Okay.
I'm almost never a running back vision critique guy, but there have just been some obvious misreads, like 3 or 4 per game the last 2 weeks, where he's running himself into traffic. And even the decisions that he is making are so indecisive, and the movements are so clunky as he's picking his gap.
I've noticed that as well.
To me, what's really concerning to me.
Can I ask one thing on that? Because I've noticed this as well. I wonder if, do you get the sense that he's pressing out there because he's having to run behind such a poor offensive line, or maybe he's pressing because he feels himself losing that step, or is it just a couple bad weeks, just variance?
I would guess it's one of those two, but yeah,
Right.
I think the first option I think is probably most likely, although like the thing is, vision, you would think is probably the last thing to go for a running back. So,
and he's not had an issue with poor vision much
no,
in his career.
Vision has been like one of his best traits over his career. So I think that was a factor, but that was really a factor for like 2 or 3 plays in the Texans game. The thing with Derrick Henry versus Tyjae Spears, I don't think Tyjae Spears or Christian McCaffrey was going to have success with how a lot of these runs were blocked. I mean, I was just writing down notes of, reasons that the first down runs weren't successful. You've got Peter Skronsky getting blown into the backfield, tackle for loss. Dylan Radins doesn't pick up a slant. You've got Traylon Burks trips on a crack block, unblocked defender in the backfield. They're running duo with a double team. Jalen Duncan just doesn't come off the double team and pick up a linebacker. He runs unblocked into the backfield. They run a toss play. Jalen Duncan doesn't pick up the nickel. He tackles whoever was running, Henry or Spears. They run trap, where they're leaving the 3 technique unblocked, trying to get him to flash into the backfield. And then you hit a trap block on his side. The 3 tech makes a great play, recognizes it, undercuts it, gets a tackle for a short gain. So there's a handful of plays, as it is like with most times that you have a poor offensive outing. I'm sure the fire everyone crowd is tired of hearing it, but a lot of it does come down to execution. With that being said, there are some Tim Kelly complaints that I had.
Okay.
I thought there was a first down slip screen where they had all the routes developing away from the linebackers that you're trying to manipulate and get to sync. And so there's really nothing influencing them to get any depth, and they just, sit by the line of scrimmage. Also on that play, though, only one blocker leaked out, so it wasn't going to be executed well regardless. I thought towards the third quarter, the Texans had been running so many slants with their defensive line where they're changing gaps post snap. And that basically, unless you just have a masterful offensive line, that pretty much screws up outside zone. Because outside zone, you want everybody flowing in the same direction, flowing with those lateral steps. So I think the decision to run a couple outside zone runs on first down in the third quarter was a bad decision from Tim Kelly. And then, to me, the Wildcat runs were just egregious. It's like doing the Steph Curry thing where you turn around after you shoot the 3, but you're 0 for 12 on the game.
It's wild confidence that's not warranted whatsoever.
Yeah. You already know we're going to run it on first down. Why don't we just make it from like you being 90% sure to you being 100% sure by
I'm about to say it's 1 degree of separation from holding up a sign on the sideline that says run, right? I mean, it's so obvious. So I want to try to whittle down the why here, because like you said, there were some poor elements of the game that was called by Kelly. Certainly a lot of poor execution. A lot of folks are talking about, well, is the boneheadedness with first down running, the refusal to go away from it when it's clearly not working, is that an element of this team knows they simply have to establish the run in order to be functional on offense? Because in my mind, this team is so poor protecting the passer when they do try to pass. It's bad enough when the defense doesn't know whether they're going to run or pass. If they just abandon the run entirely, it'll be punts every single drive without question. You won't have to watch the game to know what happened. I mean, it's so, and that's why all of your problems point back to the offensive line. I think we can agree on that. Like, this offensive line was dramatically better, a lot of these problems would be solved. But what is it about their insistence on continuing to run the ball in early downs? Do you think that that's a Vrabel thing? Is he in Kelly's ear saying, like, this is the way we're going to do it? And you see more of a Vrabel influence than a Kelly influence? Maybe we can take the conversation in that direction, because I know that you've studied Kelly pre-Titans. Now you've seen what he's done with the Titans. Is there a common thread there?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at like early down run rates for when he was in Houston. As far as like how much of it's a Vrabel influence versus a Kelly influence, I mean, there's people on Twitter that know way more than me about all the intricacies of that.
They think they know.
But I think one thing philosophically that I disagree with the Vrabel brain trust about, we'll just say, is the idea that you have to run successfully to set up play action. Like, I get the sense that's something that he thinks,
right?
Which I think is true at like a minimal sense. Like, I don't think if the Commanders came out and ran play action every snap, that would really fool anyone. Because, you know, they're passing, or at least at one point they were passing more than any NFL team had ever.
Right.
You know, so like on the extremes, you know, there does have to be some believable threat of running the football, but just the Titans' reputation and the fact that they don't really do anything else well is enough to where, like, going into the week, stopping Derrick Henry is still the main thing on every team's mind. Like, that's what the linebackers are thinking about Saturday night before the game. So it's like, you don't, having one more successful 5-yard run on first down isn't going to make that next play action concept that you're going to call any more successful.
Right.
So yeah, you know, it's hard to psychoanalyze them and figure out what the thought process was there. But play action on first down would be something that I would be just like spamming a lot more often than they do.
So we can take the conversation a little bit more broadly here, or we can talk about the offensive line some more. Here's another statistic that was being talked about by our buddy Zach Lyons on Twitter today about how wildly bad the Titans offensive line is this year. 483 dropbacks for this offense on the season. 50 of those have resulted in a sack. 60 have resulted in a quarterback hit, which means that the Titans quarterback, between Ryan Tannehill and Will Levis, is being hit or sacked every 4.39 dropbacks, which you don't have to be an expert to know that's non-starter. You can't function like that, and it's playing out that way on Sundays.
And yet somehow the Titans still have the 13th highest pass block win rate according to ESPN. What a bogus stat.
Yeah, it's stuff like that makes you question those numbers. I don't know. Do you want to the one guy in the offensive line I have the biggest question about right now? Maybe we can take it in this direction. What's been going on with Peter Skoronski the past couple of weeks, besides just him not looking very good out there? Are you of the same mind? Like, I'm hoping he just has an injury that we don't know about, because if he doesn't, it's been a little bit concerning. Now, he's playing with a guy to his left and to his right who he's, I'm sure, having to worry about and maybe compensate for. Maybe he's pressing a little bit, but what have you seen from him on tape recently?
Yeah, there have been a handful of reps, I would say, with Peter Skoronski where he just kind of gets overpowered. He had the one play. I don't know if they like charted him as giving up a sack, but there was one where he tripped on Aaron Brewer that, it isn't really that bad of a rep, but he just got tossed aside for a sack later in the game.
I know the play you're talking about where he just gets ragdolled by the defensive tackle.
Yeah, and he's had a few of those kind of plays. Like he had one that still sticks out in the Pittsburgh game, where it's like you can just tell like it's still an adjustment, the length and power of the NFL. When it comes to
is that what it is? Because I don't remember seeing those play strength issues on tape in the spring.
Yeah, but like he's going up against,
sure,
a Minnesota edge rusher. It's just like it's not even
comparable.
Not even in the same stratosphere. The way that I view it is there's almost never good rookie offensive lineman seasons. Like Tristan Wirfs, I think was pretty good as a rookie, and it was historic that he came in and was like already a plus starter. Like Rashawn Slater, like you'll get one every 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. The way that I look at it, really for all rookies, but especially for offensive linemen, is that year one, you want to at least see the high end flashes and them being able to look like they belong in the NFL.
Right.
And to me, year two is the first time that the clock starts ticking where I would ever get concerned or like, have any sort of long-term, negative outlook for a player. So if this is still happening next year, then I think it would definitely be cause for concern.
Can I ask about one play in particular I've seen floating around the internet? It's the one where, and I forget who the defender was, but he blows in between Skoronski and Duncan, who both initiate contact, but then both seem to kind of leave him. Do you think that was just a miscommunication? Somebody was trying to climb to the second level. Do you know the play I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what happened there? 'Cause I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm 90% sure that was on Duncan. You're talking about where the defensive lineman just basically splits the double team, like backed up in their own.
And then Skoronski just moves on to the second level, essentially.
Right. It looks like he's intentionally trying to move to the next level, and maybe Duncan thought that wasn't going to happen. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I just found that play.
It's like, when I watch it, I think miscommunication for sure on someone's end. But at the same time, it's like Duncan, as they split, Duncan is already moving to the left as Skoronski is moving to the guy after him. And it's like, they forgot about the guy they initially contacted with.
The other thing is Jalen Duncan is one of the least assignment secure offensive linemen that I've watched this year. Like he consistently does not know when to come off blocks, when to climb. That's been a consistent issue for me or for him. And I guess you can tell by Derrick Henry's initial track that he's trying to hit the A gap, and so that would mean that Duncan needs to slide over and overtake that block on Malik Collins, and then Skoronski comes down and blocks the mic. I would put that on Duncan based on what I see, and also just the fact that he screws up one of those plays like 3 times a game.
Well, the fact that you point out, first year for any offensive lineman as a rookie is typically a bit of a trial period. I'm sure that's reassuring to plenty of Titans fans who are hoping to see this offensive line dramatically improve with a couple of new pieces next year. So just prepare that patience, everybody. We're going to keep this conversation rolling along. And again, if you're watching with us live, we appreciate you being here with us. If you got any questions for us or for James, I would recommend James because he's not here every day. Come on over to Broadway Sports Media's YouTube page and then join the conversation in this live stream's comments section. You can leave any questions or comments you might have. We're going to get to all of those before we're done here today. And let me tell you for a moment about our sponsors, Boom Boss Craft Pizza and Tap House. They are a fantastic pizza company We love visiting with them each and every Thursday before Thursday Night Football when we do our live show. This show previewing the Titans' upcoming game before Thursday Night Football, and then stick around at the bar. We grab a drink, we grab a bite to eat. We watch the game on their big screen televisions. It's a great time. That's down in Spring Hill, just 20, 25 minutes south of Nashville, down I-65 if you're in town. They've also got locations in East Nashville and in Murfreesboro. So check out Boombah's Craft Pizza and Tap House, wherever is nearest to you. All right, I've got more questions about this team, and I don't want to get too nitty gritty because I do have some general questions on Tim Kelly and the blame game here. You know, the Jimmies and Joes versus the X's and O's. I was talking to you in private earlier this week, James, about how the gaslighting of Tim Kelly is bad. Tim Kelly is Todd Downing 2.0 is driving me up a wall at this point. And every individual person online wants to have a specific debate with me about it. And I was like, I've said my piece. Like here's the thing. It is, in my opinion, and I think this is not even I think it's just a fact. Like, unpredictability is a privilege of the talented. And so folks that say, why do you keep doing this? You got to change it up, or what, scheme around the deficiencies here, or scheme around the lack of talent from this individual player. I just see it as asking a guy to work miracles every snap, game in and game out. And I think it's not fair. And I think generally this year, Kelly has done a lot of things where it's been really impressive despite the tools he's been working with. I think that he's a dramatically better coordinator and play caller than what the Titans had in Todd Downing. So can we just address this, what I think is a very silly discussion, Tim Kelly versus Todd Downing? What differentiates them from what you have seen from both of those guys, James? Is there a couple of things or a common theme? What do you make of this comparison?
So to me, like to simply describe Todd Downing's offense, it was basically just like he was in the building when Arthur Smith was here, and then Arthur Smith left, and then they were like, did you get all that? And then
it's a bad cosplay.
Yeah, and then he just like tried to do the Arthur Smith offense that Arthur Smith ran when they had an elite run blocking offensive line and elite weapons on the outside. And the idea is we're going to line up and we're either going to run outside zone or we're going to run duo. And those are going to be our two runs. And it's not really that creative, but we have Derrick Henry and an elite O-line, and they can't stop us. Like, I was going back and watching some 2019 tape, one of the Jags games, and they straight up ran outside zone left 5 times in a row and probably averaged like 12 yards a carry on it. Like,
the good old days.
Like, the Titans could never do that, you know, in the past 2 or 3 years. No. So that's the kind of stuff that Todd Downing was trying to do. He was just in over his head. Maybe if he had gotten the job 2 years earlier, he could have eked out a good season or something. But yeah, that was Todd Downing's offense. To me, I view Tim Kelly's offense as kind of like a greatest hits scheme. I feel like he takes a lot of stuff from the Lions and Rams rushing game, where he's running a lot of counter, like unique variations of counter and duo, where he's running. So counter, traditionally you're pulling the guard, and then you've got like GT counter where you're pulling the guard or the tackle. The Titans run a lot of what's called counter solid, where they're not pulling any offensive linemen, but they're pulling 2 tight ends. That prevents backfield penetration because you're not, opening up one of those gaps, and you get like fast tight ends and receivers on the move as your pullers. They run a lot of that. They run a lot of unique variations of duo, like duo wrap, which are like all very similar. But you've got like, again, pullers, non-offensive lineman pullers. So to me, that's an example of one of the best traits that you can have as a play caller, is just being able to recognize what works and take it. And yeah, I mean, I think that it's night and day how much more creative the running game is under Tim Kelly than Todd Downing. You as a linebacker against Todd Downing's offense, you could sit there pre-snap and basically know that it was one of 2 or 3 things that was coming. With Tim Kelly, there's at least 8 or 9 things that you've seen on tape that you have to be watching out for. Now, they're probably not going to be blocked very well, but you've at least got to like fit it right. I think a telling stat with the Titans offense is that they rank 16th in EPA per play, but 27th in success rate. And
break that down for folks. What's the significance of that?
So EPA per play is like the difference in ranking 16th in EPA per play versus 27th in success rate. Success rate is just every play. It's a binary yes or no. Was it successful? Like, did you get the 4 yards on first down, 3 yards? It's descending for each down.
Right.
So if you're a low success rate offense, that means down to down, you're not very efficient. You can't move the ball. You don't have receivers that can consistently beat man coverage. You're not holding up in pass protection. You're not blocking runs very well. But if you rank high in EPA per play, that means you're getting a ton of explosive plays that are outweighing all those other snaps that are unsuccessful. And
so it's feast or famine, basically. Not where
I think that kind of speaks to his, what he's done. Like, they lead the NFL in trick plays this year.
Out of necessity, because it's the only way they can, right?
Because like they can't just call double posts and expect their receivers to win.
Right. That's Kelly actually trying to create miracles.
Every game, there's a flea flicker, there's a double reverse pass, there's something like that. So they're generating a lot of explosive plays to kind of manufacture some sort of success on offense, even if the down-to-down efficiency isn't there. Something you had in the notes that's been one of my main criticisms of Tim Kelly is that they didn't move the pocket more, especially with Will Levis and his mobility, doing design rollouts and stuff like that.
Why don't they? Like, that's the fans ask me this question and I don't have an answer. Like, folks will say, why not just roll or boot or move the pocket every single snap?
Yeah, I mean, I know that rollouts are something that have gotten a lot less popular over the last 5 years, especially. The weird thing about it, though, is like the reason they've gotten less popular is because teams are running a lot less single high cover 3, which is where it would have a lot more success. But the Titans face more cover 3 than any team in the NFL because like teams are not really playing 2 deep safeties against the Titans. Like they're not saying like we got to put a cap over this.
Over what?
Yeah. So, that's something that I think could have a lot of success against the looks that they're getting. Another thing is RPOs, which are also pretty good against cover 3. And, like I've been watching some of the Colts offense, and they've kind of been able to string together something with not much, basically just like running more RPOs than you'll ever see.
Like, it's impressive, man.
And I think that I would say even more so than rollouts are a great way to kind of minimize bad pass protection, because even with rollouts, I saw a stat like a couple years ago where quarterbacks still get hit on a higher percentage of rollouts than they do on like traditional dropbacks. I don't know if that's still true. But RPOs, you're able to kind of basically ignore some pass protection to an extent. I think guys like DeAndre Hopkins and Chris Moore even can be successful on those types of routes. I get it that you can't just install everything, but RPOs probably would have been something that I leaned towards if I was designing the Titans offense.
I want to ask you about in-game adjustments and the Titans' apparent lack of ability to do so. But one last call for folks that are with us live. If you want to ask a question or have a comment on the Titans or what we're discussing today, join us on Broadway Sports Media's YouTube page. This live stream on that YouTube channel is where you're going to find this comment section, and you can leave your thoughts there like many others already have. And while you're there, give us a subscription. It's free to you. It's very helpful to us. Try and get that number up as much as possible. So thank you very much for subscribing. James, one of the biggest issues that folks have with this team's offensive performance is in games like last Sunday, they come out and for the first drive and a half, 2 drives, they look like they've got their act together. And then they just bang their head into the wall the rest of the game. And when the opponent seems to adjust what they're doing, they don't have a counterpunch. Is it fair to wonder if this team just isn't good enough to make adjustments? Do you have to have a certain threshold of like, these guys have to be good enough to adjust to what's happening on the fly, and some of these guys just aren't? Or is that more of a coaching issue in your opinion?
Well, I don't know that I saw that with the Texans making too many adjustments or the Titans really changing up what they were doing. The main thing that I saw is that Will Levis just started missing a lot of plays in the second half, really. They also had like, they ran like the play action bang concept to Traylon Burks, got a bunch of yards. Will Levis kind of threw up a YOLO ball to Chris Moore that he came down with. Those are the 2 explosive plays really on the first drive. Or was it Chris Moore or NWI maybe?
The one done at the goal line was NWI. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like comparing the first couple drives to later in the game, I mean, I really felt like both teams were kind of doing the same stuff. You had Will Levis left a lot of plays on the table, and
was this his worst game in your opinion?
No, I mean, there were still enough really good throws that I think kind of balance out the handful of terrible ones. I would probably go to a game like Tampa Bay that I still think is probably his worst game.
Right.
Even though I think he only threw 1 interception, but it felt like he should have thrown 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he still like, I still think that like there was a lot of encouraging stuff on tape from Will Levis for this game. Doing some good stuff out of the pocket. He had, a couple really nice shots to Traylon Burks. He had a deep curl route, like 25 yards or something. I forget. It might've been to Chris Moore.
I think that one was more.
Yeah. There's still a handful of plays. It definitely was a below average game for him though.
I have a question about that passing game, something that I've been on all season long, and I don't really have an answer to. Maybe it's just a lack of talent in weapons. This Titans team has really hollowed out the middle class of their passing game this year. It feels like everything is a deep look or something at or around the line of scrimmage, and they don't really have that go to, AJ Brown in breaking 5-yard gainer. When they do throw intermediate, it's almost certainly to DeAndre Hopkins on third down, just trying to get past the sticks. You saw them do it a little bit in this game early on with those 2 identical routes that Traylon ran, the 2 in breakers where he made big chunk plays. Why don't they have an intermediate passing game? Is it because they don't have receivers that can separate quickly? Is it as simple as that?
I think the split that you're seeing is that they run a ton of quick game. Like they rank near the top of the league in 3-step drop usage rate. And a lot of times what they'll have on those will be like a slant flat concept on one side and like another slant. And then they'll have just D-hop on a go route. Mm-hmm. So it'll either be like he works the concept that's called, or that's not open. And then his check down is tossing it up to DeAndre Hopkins. I felt like that was more extreme early in Will Levis's tenure.
Sure.
You'd have to look at like the average depth of target. Texans game was actually his highest ADOT for the season at 14.9 yards. But yeah, I mean, it started out like his first 3 games, average depth of target were all above 10 yards. And then his next 4, he only had 1 above 10 that was at 10.3. Not completely telling, but it does feel like, they've gotten Chig Okonkwo involved a lot more over the middle. They've, they've loved those speed outs to Chris Moore anytime they get off coverage, and DeAndre Hopkins, because he's just so good at getting his feet in bounds.
Right.
It's honestly incredible. But yeah, I mean, the answer to that is that they're running a lot more quick game instead of the play action in breakers that you would see under Todd Downing.
Fair enough. It just, and maybe I'm off base with this, but anecdotally, it feels like this team, the number of 7, 8, 9, 10-yard reception gains, it's just so low. It feels like it's all, again, feast or famine with this team. And we can move on to, we got some questions from folks in the comments we'll get to in 1 second, but I have one more question for you on the future of this team, which is where everybody is essentially looking at this point. Based on this roster currently, and people are wondering, Titans fans are not used to this. The next 3 games, the Titans don't have anything to play for besides their draft position. It's the first time in, I think I saw 96 games Mike Vrabel's coached, and this is the first time he's going to go into a Sunday without a chance to make the postseason, which is a credit to him. But it's unnatural territory for a lot of Titans fans, and so they wonder, to me, out into the folks online, like, why do you play the starters? What's the point of these games? What can you gain? I think that it is going to be critical to figure out who should and shouldn't be a part of the future of this team. Who, based on what we've seen so far, to you, James, is going to be most critical to the future success of this team? Besides Will Levis, obviously.
So is the question, like, who do I think will be a part of the team, or who
are the guys that you think are the cornerstones going forward, and the success of the team is largely going to be predicated on their success?
Okay. So guys that I feel like there's above a 50% chance that they are like key players the next time the Titans make the playoffs. I'll say that.
That's what I'm essentially trying to get at.
I think Peter Skoronski, I still feel relatively confident about him. Will Levis, Tyjae Spears, Roger McCreary, I think, has had a great season. I haven't watched the defense tape from this game, so don't know what happened there. But I honestly, watching the game live, after the Titans went up 13-0, I fell asleep, and then I woke up to them losing. So, yeah,
it's tough. That's a tough one. Along those lines, Sean Murphy Bunting, yay or nay on him?
I think it's like, he's a boom bust cornerback too. I don't view cornerback as this pressing need that they have to address in the draft, because there's so many like cornerback twos.
Whoa! The James Foster I know said he would draft 3 corners every single time he went to the podium. What's going on?
Not with this offense.
Okay.
No.
Further down.
So yeah, I mean, I would be cool with bringing Sean Murphy Bunting back, but I think you definitely add something else besides Trey Avery that could step in. And I mean, you still need another starting outside corner. So like, yeah, I don't think he's made himself a ton of money this year. And sure. I would be cool with bringing him back. So yeah, Roger McCreary. I think Chigakonkwo, as like, I'm confident that he's gotten over the drops. Honestly, he's played really well after that. I think it was just
had a couple really nice catches in this past game that I was genuinely shocked he caught the ball.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm getting less and less shocked when he catches the ball.
Sure, right.
As of recent. But yeah, I mean, I think unfortunate timing to have that, and I guess you never know when that pops up again, maybe. But I feel like the worst case scenario with Chig has been avoided. So even though he's not a do-it-all tight end, he's at least a weapon. Obviously Dylan Radins. Just kidding. I
hate that you had to stipulate that was a joke. Yeah. That should be obvious.
And then outside of that, I would say Jeffrey Simmons and probably Amani Hooker.
Harold Landry also, because he's on that contract.
Yeah, Harold Landry.
Do you think bringing Autry back is a viable option? I mean, his age is one thing, but the production, it shocks me how much juice he has left.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he would be too expensive.
At the age, I don't think you would either.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way that what's he getting right now? Like $9 million or something?
JT, let's find the answer to that, because I have no idea. That
I
sounds
wonder, that'll be interesting to see if what he's done over the course of his contract is enough to make up for the 3 or 4 years of age that he's added.
Right.
So yeah, he's getting $7 million a year right now.
Okay.
That's honestly, I guess with cap inflation, like 8 to 10 maybe. I don't know. Once you get to 10, that's kind of pushing it with me.
Because he's what, 32, 33 years old?
Yeah, and even though he's getting the sacks, I feel like it still has been a step down from last year. I don't even know how many sacks he had last year, but like that was as good as I've ever seen him play from just down to down pass rush perspective.
Let me kind of flip the question. Sorry, no, go ahead and finish up, and then I have
follow-up. I mean, I would say 8.5 for Danico Autry would be my limit.
Okay. Let me kind of flip the question on its head, and then I promise we will get to these questions in the comment section. Besides Peter Skoronski, the rest of the line, I think you need to kind of figure out something new at every position. How would you rank the order of importance going into this offseason? Like, besides left guard, you've got 4 positions you would like to upgrade. Rank those based on the guys. Like, who, if you got to stick with one guy or 2 guys going into next year, who are you fine sticking with in order to replace the other ones, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so to me, left tackle and right tackle are, I mean, like by far the biggest needs. If
you had bookend tackles, could you work with the current interior offensive line? Like, could this work if you had bookend tackles?
Yeah. I mean, Daniel Brunskill, Aaron Brewer, rookie Peter Skoronski are all players that I don't think would be that noticeable on a top 10 to 12 offensive line. Now, I think even if let's say you spend round 1, round 2 picks on both tackles, and they might end up being, great tackles of the future. As we've seen with Peter Skoronski, that doesn't mean they're going to be good tackles, good offensive linemen in their rookie years. So, for next year, I think center and guard are 2 positions that I would be looking to find options in free agency. Like there's a lot of centers that I like in this class, but I wouldn't draft any of them on, before the 5th round, really. And same thing with right guard. Like that's the position that you can kind of stitch together in the off season. Tackle is not really something unless you get insanely lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's dive into some of these questions from the comments, and then we'll get on out of here. In order here, Kenneth, longtime viewer of the show, appreciate you being here, Kenneth. He asks, very curious if James, he's asking the 10,000-foot question here. James says the blame goes more to Vrabel and Kelly, or the Christmas ghost of J-Rob passed. This is a very binary question and not really your style. I know, James, but if you had to assign more blame to what John Robinson did for the construction of this team, or what Vrabel and Kelly are doing from a operating it now standpoint, who is it still that this team has just been set up for so long to fail that you have to blame the past?
Well, I think that, so the first thing that I would say is that, any defense or more like lack of criticism that I would have of Vrabel as a coach doesn't extend to Vrabel as a general manager. In fact, something I think the Titans should do this offseason is hire Rand Carthon as GM. The whole idea
that, right?
Yeah, the whole idea of like the head coach that's also gonna
James, they're
be
collaborating,
in charge of personnel.
They're just collaborating.
I'm not in favor of that. Even just disregarding the moves that he's made. Like, you're stretching yourself too thin, and there's no reason for us to expect that Mike Vrabel knows what he's doing scouting or anything like that. So yeah, I would say the combination of John Robinson and then additionally the players that Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon brought in have more of an effect on the Titans being bad than Vrabel and Tim Kelly. But that's really not a whole lot to do specifically with the Titans coaches, because outside of extreme examples, like probably one or two per season, I'm almost always going to lean towards personnel over coaching. Number one, because I think it's more important. And number two, because that's the thing that I can actually have an educated opinion on. Like, I can watch the tape and tell you which players are doing good and which players are doing bad.
Sure.
I'm not watching the practices or the meeting rooms. Like, when Dylan Radin's false starts twice per game, I could kind of just like broadly gesture at that and say, that's on the coaches. And I agree with that to an extent, but I don't know how they're coaching the cadence and the snap count in practice. So like, I don't really have anything to add to that. It's kind of like,
right
after a certain point, it reaches a tipping point where it's like, okay, it's on the coaches, but I don't really know where that is. And really what I try to do is just like, when there's obvious coaching examples, it's easier with play calling. It's hard.
Right.
It's really hard to criticize a head coach that doesn't call plays, because there's not a whole lot of concrete stuff that I have to really go off of. So,
yeah.
But even aside from that, though, I do think that it's just in general, football is a lot more about having good players.
Matt remarks Spears and Henry have roughly the same amount of touches, but it still feels like the Titans are not using Spears as much as they should. If it was up to you, James, would you prefer I think I've heard you say this already before in the past. Would you prefer they use Spears more often than they already are?
Yeah, I probably would. The one element of it that I don't know is how comfortable they are with giving him a full-time workload. Like I remember,
like a conditioning standpoint.
Well, just like kind of being a smaller player. Like,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. I think even if they don't re-sign Derrick Henry, let's say they let Derrick Henry walk, I think you're still going to get like a David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs type of situation next year.
Yeah,
would be my guess.
Somebody.
Like, yeah. I don't imagine them just giving Tyjae Spears 25 carries a game plus the receiving touches. So I would probably have, I guess the biggest thing for me, what they've been doing outside of the times where Derrick Henry's come out, is that it's basically Derrick Henry's the early down back, Tyjae Spears is the third down back. And so Spears isn't really getting many of those under center carries on like outside zone and stuff. He's getting most of his carries out of shotgun. So I would like probably take 20% of the under center early down work that Derrick Henry's getting and give it to Tyjae Spears. That would probably, at this point, like it doesn't really matter. At this point, I guess give Tyjae Spears all the carries.
Like you said, whoever's back there, it's not going to change the fact that they can't run the ball.
But if we're starting the season over and like how I would ideally plan it, I still think like Derrick Henry is a good running back, even with the step that he's lost and the fact that he, doesn't really like fight through arm tackles as well as he did. He's still, a really effective running back relative to the rest of the league. So
you're saying that the current situation he's in is making him look worse than he actually is at this point, you think?
Well, I think the last two games have been his two of the worst games that I've seen from him.
Sure.
I was filling out an all-pro roster, and like I had Derrick Henry as an all-pro before the Dolphins game. And then like these last two games, I was like, ooh, probably not. But yeah, I think overall he's been really good this year. Recency bias though.
Sure. All right, Tighten Up asks, this is an opinion of his. Get your opinion on his opinion. Got to bring back more fullback work if Derrick Henry is your number one back. He needs a head of steam, and a fullback helps him get to the line of scrimmage with momentum. The Titans have been supplementing the lack of an actual fullback by title with tight end usage. I don't think that's really the issue here. Having a guy lined back at fullback, the position on the field, maybe helps some, but I think the fullback would just be running into the same wall that Derrick is running into. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, they use Chigakonkwo as a fullback pretty often. That's one of the things that Tim Kelly does a lot with his running game, is having tight ends in the backfield that can sift across in different directions, and that's really where Chig is at his best as a blocker. I did just did a Titans Tiers episode on the YouTube channel, and I showed a play that was an example of why you can't run 11 personnel with Chig as your one tight end. And it's just him like an inline tight end getting blown off the line of scrimmage, tackle for loss. And it's like, that's why Josh Wiley will always exist. That's why there will always be a Trayvon Wesco. There will always be a Jeff Swaim. When you get rid of him, they'll bring in Trayvon Wesco.
Kevin
when you get
Rader,
rid of him,
bring him in. Yep.
Yeah, they'll bring in another guy that everyone will hate. But when you get him like, as a fullback and have him having blocking linebackers and DBs, he's actually, a pretty effective blocker. And then that way you don't have to waste a roster spot on a fullback that doesn't do anything else besides block.
Tim Lee with a sharp question. He says the Titans 2019 bread and butter used to be hitting A.J. Brown on play action on a Yankee concept for chunk plays. Why do you think that we aren't seeing that as much anymore? Is it Levis accuracy, a muted run threat, wide receivers on this roster just simply not being able to pull it off? What do you think is the reason why this is kind of along the same lines of that hollowed out middle class of the passing game? Is it the receiving talent?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's been something that I've been wanting them to get back more to really since 2019. Because that was just such a cheat code play.
Yep.
I think a few elements. The first one is that teams aren't giving as many favorable looks to that kind of play as they were in 2019. Like 2019 was it's like scissors hitting the seam of the wrapping paper for that kind of offense. If you go back and watch like the Raiders game from 2019, they're still playing cover 3 with like the deep middle safety 20-25 yards off the line of scrimmage, and like they're just leaving, and then the linebackers are fully biting on the play action. They're leaving so much space over the middle of the field. You can just run anything there. Like they didn't even probably need AJ Brown. They could have had like anyone running those end breakers and it would have been open. And after people like Shanahan, McVay, Arthur Smith, pretty much half the league started just spamming that. And then the whole like too high quarters revolution came, and teams realized that, biting on play action isn't the smartest way to play defense. A lot of those looks have gotten taken away. And then even when teams do go into single high, they're still having someone kind of rob the middle to take away those routes. But like, even though it's not there as often, the looks are still there. So I agree with you. And they got back to it with hitting Traylon a couple of times in this past game. But like, that's something that Will Levis executed a lot at Kentucky, and there's no reason that he couldn't do that at the NFL level.
Shane Franklin in the comments asks if this is it for Henry, or is it, if this is, I think, okay, I'm going to translate this. If this is it for Henry, what type of back replaces him in your opinion, or what type of back would you like to see replace him? Again, we kind of already touched on this. You think it's going to be a 2-back system regardless, but maybe to spin the question a little bit, would you prefer to see them get another guy similar to Spears if it is Henry's final season as a Titan, to be a 1-2 punch of similar style, or would you rather them go a little bit like Tony Pollard, Zeke, Cowboys end of the run with Zeke, where you've got a goal line short yardage back, and maybe you keep Henry in that role and let Spears handle the rest? What would you prefer they do?
So I would prefer that you keep it a similar role distribution where you've got Tyjae Spears is in there for every passing down. And then I just think Tyjae Spears is a good enough player that I still want him in there on early downs, but like for rest purposes and, longevity, you're not giving him every single snap. So maybe, a 70, 30, 60, 40 type of split as the early down back. If we're looking at free agents, I've got it pulled up here.
Okay.
I think, honestly, the most appealing free agent option at running back is Deontay Foreman.
I wonder if they have any interest in him.
He was so good when he was here.
I know.
So yeah, I like Deontay Foreman. If they decided to go in the draft, I really, and you want, if
I don't
you
think
want
that'd
to
be
go,
well received at all. I think that'd be so poorly received if they used
not early.
I think at all people would still hate it. I mean, they drafted Spears in the 3rd round last year, and people despised the pick.
Yeah, but just for fun, if they wanted to go in the draft, they could get Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin.
Okay.
19 years old, 6'1", 245 pounds.
19, young fella.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to jot that name to Braylon Allen. Jotting that down.
Yeah. For the record, I would be firmly against that, but that's the type of shit they would pull.
Okay.
In like the 4th round.
Matt Wilcox again in the comments saying the Titans' relationship with Chris Moore is really weird. PFF grades him highly, and we still only give him like 3 or 4 targets a game. I want to know why. 20.8 yards a catch, and they only give him 2 targets. I think that's just a result of that's kind of that's the role, the archetype that he fits as a receiver. I don't know. Do you feel like they're not targeting him enough? I've been impressed with what he's done this year. I just don't think he's a volume guy in that way.
Yeah, he has had some. Basically, the 2 ways that he's gotten production have been just making crazy contested catches, which I didn't expect him to be that efficient at. And honestly, yeah, I mean, I would be in favor of maybe throwing him like one more jump ball a game. And then
could they give his contested catch ability to Treylon, and then maybe he'd actually start to live up to the, I don't know, just a thought.
Maybe, I don't know.
Anyways,
and then the other way he gets the ball is on like out routes against off coverage, which, the defense has to give you those looks. I think the way that the Panthers were playing the Titans, for example, where they were just playing so far off, I think is like the blueprint of what not to do against the Titans, because that's the one look. That's the one look that they kind of know how to beat. They've got out route against off coverage down. Beating press man, that's where they really struggle.
DP putting you on the spot here, saying, James, you mentioned it right when he was about to ask. Do you know what percentage of runs from this Titans team are RPOs? It seems like they're never called, or if it is called, it's always a give. It's okay if you can't get to that number quickly, but it is a question that we have for you.
So I can tell you that the Titans have thrown 13 RPOs this year.
Okay. All year.
Yeah, 13 RPOs.
It's tough.
And then as far as runs, there have been actually more than I expected. 52 runs this year have been RPOs. So yeah, 13 plus 52, 65 RPOs on the year, and they are giving it about 20 to 15% of the time.
Okay. There you go, DP. There are your numbers you requested. Couple more before we get out of here. Tim saying, shouldn't facing the highest percentage of cover 3 mean that we really should hammer play action? Seems like defenses love having sound run fits, then getting beat deep, but the Titans love running into a brick wall.
Someone would have to check the play action rate. It does seem like they run a good deal of play action, but like I said earlier in the on this show, something I disagree with, or I think I disagree with Mike Vrabel, is the idea that you have to establish the run a lot before you can call play action.
Right.
Like just based off of just reputation alone, they can get people to bite off of play action. Not even that they're a good rushing offense, just that they run the ball a lot.
Right.
So yeah, play action, motion's a little bit different. Don't have to get into all the details, but like those are two things that generally I'm just almost always in favor of upping the usage rate for.
And finally, Josh has a question that makes me not like Josh very much. I hate that we're having to end on this note because it just makes me sad. But he says, with a funny profile picture of Peter Skronsky, he feels like Kyle Phillips could help with the intermediate passing game. You
and me both, man.
Yeah, it's what can you crack the Kyle Phillips enigma besides just the dude can't stay healthy?
Yeah, I actually went back and watched some of Colton Dowell's special teams reps just to see what all the hullabaloo was about. Yeah. And
this cat's cooking. He's got to be.
I watched a couple games, and like they were the ones that PFF said were his highest graded games.
Sure.
I didn't see it, but like I didn't see the plays that they were seeing, but I've seen people say that he was like doing good stuff. So I think I missed something. I don't know. I think special teams should be banned.
You,
so that Kyle
staunch
Phillips,
anti-special teams film guy, has been forced by this decrepit, old, terrible Titans team to watch special teams film. That makes me happy.
Ban special teams so that Kyle Phillips can get a roster spot. That's what I say.
You know what? I think we'll end on that. James, you're doing so much fantastic work on the YouTube channel and on social media. What do the people need to go check out? I know you did a Titans tier video recently. What else is going on?
Yep, just did a Titans tier video. This morning I recorded 6 draft scouting reports that I am currently editing that will be up this week. We've got J.C. Latham, Olu Fashanu, Joe Alt, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Keon Coleman. I've been watching.
Titans might have access to, and a bunch that they probably will have to watch go to another team.
Yep, been watching like a ton of draft film over the past 2 to 3 months, basically, and like now I'm at the point where I'm actually getting to turn it into videos and content.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting. Check those out. Those are going to be flowing out pretty soon.
Fantastic. All right, guys, he's James Foster. We love having him on the show. You guys love when he joins us. We'll have him again, I'm sure, once or twice this spring when we're doing all of our draft coverage. But he's going to be diving into it now, so go and check out his work again at No Flags Film on Twitter and on YouTube. He is over there at AtoZ Film Room. Check him out. I think it's AtoZ Film Room on pretty much every social. So wherever you like to get your content, check him out there. James, it's been a pleasure. Those of you that joined us live, thank you so much. We appreciate you. We'll be back on Thursday afternoon live at Boomboss Craft Pizza and Tap House, breaking down the Titans' upcoming game against the Seattle Seahawks, who got a very big win last night against the Eagles. They should be coming into town. Geno Smith, whether he's going to play or not. Will Levis, whether he's going to play or not. And if he doesn't with that high ankle sprain, who's it going to be? We'll discuss all of that and more on Thursday. So join us live then at 5:30 Central Time. Until then, for producer JT and our guest, James Foster, I'm your host, Easton Freeze. This has been the Hot Read Podcast. We'll talk to you later.